Because it's tough to beat alcoholism alone. Call New Beginnings. It's never too late for a new beginning.
Joe Schmidt. Find him on Eyewitness Sports.
Good morning, I'm Bob Bruce, and welcome to Twin Cities Live. Steve Fossom was serving his third year of a 12-year sentence when he contacted local attorney Ron Meshbesher, and Ron, through a process, found out that Steve was indeed, as he claimed, innocent. He was locked behind bars for almost 3 years, knowing that the actual rapist who committed the crime had gone free. But Ron got him one of only 3 full pardons in the state of Texas during the recent governor's term. We're going to find out today from Steve Fossom what it's like to be accused of a crime, convicted of a crime, to be put in prison, and then finally to win your freedom because you just did not commit the crime. That's much more next on Twin Cities Live. Back on Twin Cities Live, and this is this week's issue of People, and you can see on the inside the caption of Happy. 2 reporters convinced the governor that Texas jailed an innocent man and convicted rapist Steve Fossom walks. Through some media reports and a lot of hard work, Steve Fossom, who's with us, who is from Mabel, Minnesota, and had gone to Texas. First time you ever left home, Steve, and you go to Texas, and I guess maybe we should just start in the beginning and getting some of the basic facts of what happened and how you were convicted in the first place, and actually there were 2 separate instances involved in this.
Yes, sir, it is. I know when I first got down there, I wasn't down there, but it was about 2 years, and they come around to this here for sexual assault, arrested for that there. Like I told, I didn't want to tell my mom and that right away, so I just kind of waited and got a hold of Gloria, attorney fees and everything else. It cost so much, so I had to get a hold of Mom and everybody. But then they come up with this other one.
This was only 10 days after the first one.
No, it was...
Was it longer than that?
I got arrested, was in October '82 for the first one. I got arrested again in August '83 for the second one.
I think it's interesting. Tell me how you were identified and why you were picked out as being the person who perpetrated the crime, supposedly.
It was the first one, I don't know, it was I was sitting at a gas station, and her boyfriend or whatever seen the composite drawing. Then I was just sitting there, and he says, well, that looks like the guy right there. So they followed, got the license plate's number. Then they did a check like that there. And that's how they come up with me.
This is pretty frightening, Ron, that you could just be sitting somewhere, and just because someone happened to look like you, they could pick you up, put you in a police lineup, and next thing you know, you're in prison?
Unfortunately, it happens too often. In fact, the U.S. Supreme Court said many years ago that wrongful eyewitness identification has caused more erroneous convictions than all other causes put together. Steve's case is very unusual because the first person to identify him had never seen him. All he had seen was an artist's sketch of the person who had assaulted his girlfriend some months earlier. And Steve just happened to be walking out of a shopping center when the boyfriend was, and he said, that guy looks like the picture.
Then how could they convict? How could the judicial system that most of us, I'm sure, in the audience feel safe is going to be, have justice and be fair and get the right person who committed the crime? How could it go so wrong in this case?
The law allows a jury to decide whether the eyewitness testimony or eyewitness identification is accurate. And the only evidence against Steve in the cases was the identification by the woman who was attacked. In the first case, there's no question the woman was terribly attacked, and we all have sympathy for her. But I think with the pressure from her boyfriend, she made an erroneous identification herself when Steve was placed in the lineup.
Steve, when they put you in the lineup, how concerned were you at this point? Did you feel like, hey, I'm innocent, I don't have anything to worry about?
Yeah, that's what I figured. That's what, like I said, I'd just wait till, get a hold of my mom and that there for attorney's fees and stuff like that there. I just said, oh, this be all straightened out.
You were just worried about the cost of eventually getting out of it, and that you weren't going to worry too much about that you're going to have to go to trial or anything.
Yeah.
What happened? When did it finally sink in that, hey, I'm in deep, deep trouble?
I don't know. It was through the lineup and that there, so he picked me out. All the other ones said, no, it's not him. Then they come around to arrested me for the second time. That's it there then. It was something else there.
Ron, he was assigned. You were not his attorney originally when he was convicted on the charge.
No.
Explain that situation for me.
I got involved in the case after I saw the I-Team report, and the two reporters, Greenspan and Austin, really uncovered the evidence in this case that allowed Steve to be pardoned. After I saw that report, I talked to the reporters and asked them if there was anything I could do, and they were looking for an attorney. I volunteered my time on behalf of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers. I associated myself with the former president of that group in Houston, John Ackerman, and he and I were able to take the ball from where Andy and Al had put it. And the primary bit of evidence that allowed Steve to be pardoned was the fact that semen tests were conducted, which showed that Steve could not have been the rapist.
Why weren't these done in the first trial?
They were done, but they were just preliminary tests that were done in the Texas laboratory, Department of Corrections laboratory, and they had told the first defense lawyer that they were inconclusive. This lawyer was very inexperienced. I don't think he ever tried a case like this before, and he didn't realize the impact of these tests or the fact that he could do them himself. We had the test conducted several times afterwards by perhaps the premier expert in the world, Dr. Raxall in San Francisco, and he said positively Steve could not have deposited the semen in at least the second woman's vagina.
Steve, when you met this first attorney and you knew that you were going to have to go through this whole process, were you comfortable with him? Did you think he knew what he was doing?
Yeah. Like I had the first attorney, another attorney before that, and the way I went down there and talked to him, and the way he sounded, he didn't believe me. So I said, I'll help you find another guy. So they found the Grennis there, and then he was, I think he's a young guy, and not much criminal cases or nothing like that.
Ron, how often does this happen? I don't want to come down on the legal profession, but how often does a gentleman like Steve get an inexperienced lawyer and a serious charge and wind up losing? He lost over 2 years of his life.
Well, it happens too often. There are no qualifications for a lawyer to go in and try any kind of case. A lawyer right out of law school can try the most serious case. He's got a license, it's a general license, and I really think the profession ought to have some standards to prevent that from happening. At least the physicians have internships, they have specialties. The law is moving towards that, but there is no way to prevent that from happening again. I don't think it happens percentage-wise in a large number of cases, but I think in raw numbers, there are probably a lot of people that have suffered the fate that Steve suffered.
Steve, you had a woman who picked you out of a lineup and said, that's the man, I'm positive that's the man. It had to look bad to not only to yourself, but to your family and to your friends. It had to appear that this guy is guilty. When you called your mother and you told her what was going on, what was that conversation like?
It was a hard one. I don't know, that was a different one there. I don't know, I didn't want to do it, but I didn't have much choice, Like I asked my brother first, for attorney's fees and everything else. There's just no way I could do it, so I didn't get hold of my mom.
Okay, you go through the trial. They have the evidence today. Do you feel you were railroaded right into this?
Yeah.
Does that happen a lot in the legal system?
Well, I don't think it happens a lot, as I say, percentage-wise, but I'm sure there are a number of people behind bars that don't belong there. But even if it only happens 1 or 2% of the time, that amounts to a fairly large number of individuals.
When you were convicted, Steve, you had about, 15 minutes? You just had a short time to spend with your family before they took you away, and then you weren't able to stay in real close contact with your family. When that verdict came down and the judge, the jury, whatever, said that he's guilty and you were sentenced, then what was the feeling?
That was a hard, sitting in there at county jail and that there, I just figured let's look for the worst. I just seen other people go in there and, get big time and, a lot of time and that. So I just, expected the worst, best to happen, and get out of there. But that's why, just keep your mind like that there, because otherwise it'd be a long struggle through it.
Here's a guy from a small town in Minnesota, goes to Texas, gets arrested, gets convicted It must have taken a great effort to get him a pardon, because pardons are not come by very easily, and especially in Texas. Texas is one of the stricter court systems and prison systems in the United States.
Well, a pardon based on innocence is very, very rare. I've been practicing law in Minnesota almost 30 years, and I've never seen one in this state. I've been told that this was the third or fourth pardon based on innocence that Governor White has granted during his administration. But I had never seen such a document before. In fact, we just got it in the mail last week, and I had it framed so I could present it to Steve.
Let's take a look at it. You got it?
Sure.
What does this basically give back to him?
It gives back all of his civil rights, and it specifically says it's based upon innocence. It's not based on any legal technicality. It was granted because the governor and his staff were convinced that Steve was innocent and was wrongfully convicted. And this document says that. It's a proclamation from the governor, signed by the governor.
Steve, that gives you back some basic rights as far as voting, that sort of thing. But it doesn't give you back the amount of time that you lost in prison. And you have to feel somewhat bitter about that.
Yeah. They can't give back no time, or, you know, last 3 years. They can't do nothing about that. I don't know.
What do you say to yourself, that you just got to start over and go from here? Or
That's it.
were you ever able to confront the woman that originally pointed you out?
Seen her in court there, and that was it. That was...
How did you feel sitting in the courtroom with the woman that had accused you and on testimony got you convicted? How did you feel about that?
I was just sitting there as this big old liar, and, you know, I can't really say nothing sitting up in court, or, you know.
Obviously, in a situation like this, there were more people affected than just Steve. Your mom, your sister, your family, your relatives, in fact, probably even the whole town of Mabel who knew you. You grew up there. When we come back, we'll meet members of Steve Fossom's family and find out how this whole ordeal affected them when we continue.
Now there's something new at your local weight loss clinic. It's the Fast Finish program. Only $49. It's designed for people with pounds, not time to lose.
When you're slim, you go more places and have more fun.
At the weight loss clinic, Joan Moeller lost 68 pounds and went from a size 22 to an 8.
I feel terrific. Losing weight put the excitement back in my life. Thank you, Weight Loss Clinic.
Now that I'm slim, my husband and I like to sneak away for the weekend.
At the weight loss clinic, Gail Weems lost 45 pounds and went from a size 16 to an 8.
Losing weight has put the romance back in my marriage. Thank you, Weight Loss Clinic.
If you have pounds, not time to lose, get the Fast Finish program for only $49 at any weight loss clinic. It can help you lose up to 5 pounds per week. This special program is available for a limited time only, so call today. Remember, only Weight Loss Clinic can give you the Fast Finish for your weight problem. Call now.
Great news. We've turned on a new, more powerful radio station, playing all music and all memories. It's Magic 108 FM. Magic 108, featuring great love songs and all your favorites from the 60s, 70s, and the 80s. Magic 108, now with a new, rich stereo signal. All music, all memories, and less talk. Turn your FM dial up to 108 and try the new Magic. Magic 108 FM.
It's 1986, and women with eating disorders like anorexia and bulimia are finally coming out of hiding and getting the desperate medical attention they need. But there's another side to the binge-purge syndrome and rapid weight loss. On Wednesday's Twin Cities Live, you're going to meet two men who suffered from bulimia. How did they recover? How did their families cope with this problem? You can come down, be in our studio audience, and discuss this problem. Maybe you have that problem in your particular family. Now's a chance for you to come down and find out all about it. 641-1298 for your free studio tickets to our show on Wednesday. Join us. Steve, before we have some phone calls, we have some questions in the audience, but I first want to ask you, if you had a chance to spend 5-10 minutes or whatever with the man who did commit the crime, who is still running free, I assume. There have been no other arrests in this case?
We don't know. There may be someone that looks a lot like Steve because his picture was picked out of a police photo book after he was in prison. And a woman had positively identified his picture as being the rapist. And we think there may be someone that looks somewhat similar to Steve who is roaming around, or perhaps he may be in prison on another charge. We just don't know.
What would you say to him, Steve?
I don't know.
What would you do?
I don't know. I'd probably have to fight him or whatever else. I don't know. It'd be 30 years. I don't know, the guy.
I think it's hard for all of us to imagine losing 3 years out of our life. Delone Fossom, Steve's mother, now joins us along with his sister, Gloria Torgerson. And Delone, when your son called you, of course, every mother, is going to believe that their son is innocent. But was there any point in this whole ordeal when you heard the evidence and you saw it looked pretty bad for him, and in fact he was convicted, did you have any self-doubts whatsoever?
You know, I didn't. I just didn't think he was guilty at all.
Okay, thanks for holding. Go ahead. You're on Twin Cities Live.
Yes, I just wanted to call and tell you that we just went through almost the exact same thing last year, just in the Twin Cities. My husband was working one day, and that evening noticed his wallet was missing, and he went to the police department to report a missing wallet. They kept him all night, questioned him, badgered him, and at 4 o'clock in the morning arrested him for stabbing somebody in the neighborhood. He didn't know anything about what had happened at all. They took him to jail. He was in jail for almost the whole week. Didn't even know what the charges were against him. End of the week, on a Thursday, they brought the charges forth. It was 2 counts of stabbing, assault with a weapon, and 2 counts of burglary. The bail was set at $50,000, and we're missionaries from our church. We didn't even have any money to pay for anything. And we had to get an attorney, and luckily we got a very excellent attorney. We had Doug Thompson and Deborah Ellis from Thompson Hawkins and Ellis defend my husband, but it was only through people contributing and raising the money for us, because we didn't have a dime. And otherwise my husband would have been convicted, I know, and they wanted to take him away for 6 years. It was just so traumatic for our whole family. And this happened right here in Burnsville.
Brown, maybe you want to comment on this.
Well, I'm sure those things do occur. Fortunately, the system has within it the power to correct itself. I don't think these convictions happen on a regular basis. I don't want the public to get the wrong idea, but they do happen, and fortunately there are ways to correct it some of the time. I'm sure there are people in prison today who are there for something they didn't do.
Okay, I have a question mainly for Ron, but also for Steve. Do you think, is there anything that you are thinking of that could possibly change this happening in the future in the U.S. judicial system? Or do you think that it's the best that it can be and this just happens sometime?
I don't think there's anything that we're able to do that's going to change or prevent this from happening, because the law has been for centuries that eyewitness identification is appropriate and a jury is entitled to hear it. The one thing we have been doing, though, is trying to educate the juries about the hazards of eyewitness identification. As a result, on several cases, I've called in experts, psychology experts, who explain to the jury how some people can be mistaken and what happens during identification procedure. You have to remember that when someone says that's the person, it really is an opinion. It's not a fact. And we all know that we have made mistakes in looking at people at the street. We thought we saw that person before. It may have been a close friend. You come up and say hello and you realize, well, I made a mistake. It just looks like that person. I don't know how we change it. It's just human nature. We just have to do the best we can to explain those hazards to the jury and to the judge.
Gloria, you sort of led the fight. You were calling people, trying to find out how to get Steve free. When you found out about this and got into it, did you find yourself, I think maybe like all of us, that you were a bit naive about the judicial system and that what can happen to any of us?
Yeah, I didn't. You know, I just thought, well, it's going to pass over. It's not going to happen because he hasn't done this. And it just kept on. And I kept on calling people and trying, and it just never helped. But when they talk about the secretor and non-secretor part of it, it took 3 times for somebody to explain that to me, to know what it was all about. So if a jury isn't told about this, a lot of them probably don't even understand what it's really all about.
Okay, so you're your mom. You're helping Steve fight against being convicted. He gets convicted. He goes to prison. He's there a month, 2 months, 6 months, a year, going on 2 years, almost 3 years being incarcerated. Did you ever give up hope that you're going to be able to get Steve out?
No, because things if things happen in those 3 years to give us a little hope every now and then to work on. When he was accused of that one, when he was already sitting in prison, he was brought back to Houston thinking he was going to get a new trial, and we had 6 months there. We waited to see if he was going to get a new trial. So there was that hope every day that this was going to happen for him, and different things come up. So we had the hope, but it took some time.
Rape is a devastating crime for everyone involved. As a woman, can you understand at all what went through this woman's mind in accusing your brother?
The First Lady, yes. It's really sad what she's had to go through too, But we have 3 girls, and I think about them, and I told them, I said, you've got to make sure if this ever happens, you pick the right person, because they go through their own kind of hell too,
Delone, your friends and relatives in Mabel, did you find out who your true friends really were?
Oh, yes.
Did you have friends that say, hey, he's guilty?
No.
And you should accept this. Did you have that at all?
No, we didn't really have that experience. Everybody thought he was not guilty.
So they really bound together.
Everybody
and really
was
helped.
for us in our own hometown there. We've had a lot of calls from the city area, Rochester, and different places elsewhere too that have called us and said that they didn't think my son was guilty.
Good morning. You're on Twin Cities Live. Go right ahead with your question.
Good morning. I was wondering if there's any legal recourse Mr. Fossom could take either against the state of Texas, the plaintiff themselves, or the attorney that was representing him in the first place.
Well, there's possibilities of doing all of those things. We're looking into perhaps asking the state legislature to pass a special bill to compensate Steve for the time he spent behind bars. That is done on occasion. We're also looking into the possibility to determine whether the first lawyer may have committed legal malpractice. And our investigation is not complete yet, and I hesitate to say what the answer is. We could go after one of the so-called victims if we had proved that the person maliciously and wrongfully identified Steve, but that's almost impossible to prove.
Now, the first arrest was for aggravated abuse. Steve is still on probation for that offense, correct?
Yes.
He received a full pardon for the aggravated rape charge. Now, are things underway to clear him of the original charge?
We're working on it. We've tried to have some blood testing done in that case. The woman in that case will not cooperate and give us some fresh samples of blood, which our expert says must be needed. Our preliminary testing indicates that that testing may also exonerate Steve. And we're trying to persuade the woman, who we believe was seriously abused, to at least give us the opportunity to test her blood. Steve had pretty solid alibis in both of those cases, but the jury just didn't believe his alibi. Although one of the jurors in the first case said that she voted for probation. In that case, the jury sentenced Steve, and they gave him probation for a very terrible crime. And we found out later the reason was that the jurors felt that he was innocent. And so rather than put an innocent man in prison, they just found him guilty and put him on probation, which is a strange reasoning.
Gloria, where did you find the money? This cost money, the telephone calls and trying to get him free. Where did you come up with the money? It had to be an expensive process.
Well, I started working at the Greenlee Manor in Mabel about 5 days after he was put in jail. I got a phone call to come to work, so I went to work and I paid my telephone bills with that money, so it didn't take out of our family funds, So that's kind of where we got that.
Steve, obviously you have to have your sister. You must have been very close to your sister before this, and it must have strengthened that bond tremendously after this.
Yeah, she did quite a job. I know she kept on writing letters down there 2-3 times a week, saying she's calling these people and trying to get a hold of these people, and kept on working at it.
Did that help things out for you? And Texas prison system is not one of the nicest in the country. I mean, it's a tough prison system.
It is. It's probably one of the worst,
Did you keep in contact with your family that much? Did you get a chance to visit him at all in prison?
Yeah, we went down on February, around my birthday, a year ago. And then we took Mom and our 2 youngest daughters, and we went down last July and visited them. So we went down twice to the prison.
Thanks for waiting. Go right ahead. Go ahead. Are you there?
Yes, I have a question. I have a question for Mr. Meshbesher. I'd like to know what the law is concerning the process of identifying a suspect in a rape case. Like you look at a group of pictures, you look at a people lineup. What is the process there?
I think the process is pretty much like you see in the television movies. Usually the person has not been arrested, and they'll take the woman to the police department and show a book of photos of supposed known rape suspects or others, and they're making identification from that if they can. Then they will place the person who is identified in a lineup with maybe only 5 or 6 other people. The minute you only give them a choice of 5, the odds of a mistake are at least, 20%. So that's a terrific problem. That's where a lot of problems arise, too.
Yeah, my brother's in Oklahoma prison right now for rape and murder. And we had the same test done. The serology test proved that he was innocent, and he's in prison still. The jury didn't believe it. What suggestion do you think we should do? How should we handle this?
I don't know what stage your case is in, and I don't know all the facts.
Oklahoma City.
Before I could give an opinion, I'd have to read, or any lawyer would have to read the complete court transcript. I did that in Steve's case. I was able to get the transcripts, and I read every word of the testimony and saw all the police reports and the scientific evidence. There are nuances in every case, and it's hard for anybody to give you any good advice unless they know all those things.
You're basically in the stage that Gloria was.
Yeah, and we've got the test. Our lawyer did all the testing. He's got the evidence. When it was presented to the jury, they didn't understand it, and they convicted him. He's got 2 life sentences back to back right now.
We'll be right back after this.
Today, we're going to test some juices in our new pyramid. First, let's try this kind. Oh, it didn't do so good. That's because there's only 10% juice in this drink. Now, let's try Spee's Farm Juice. Hey, folks, pyramidas don't lie. Spee's is 100% pure juice with no artificial ingredients and no sugars added. Oh, all right, here, enjoy. Oh, this one's mine. Spee's Farm, 100% pure natural juice.
Oh no, forgot to add the fabric softener, gotta run. Whoa!
If only she knew about Solo. You can't forget the softener in Solo. Because Solo is detergent and fabric softener in one. Look, these muddy sweatshirts came out clean, but Solo's clean is so soft, it's fluffed up higher.
Wait! You didn't wait.
Next time, get Solo. It cleans with a softness you can't forget.
How I needed a friend, and you came along, and you turned my life around.
The Purina Pets for People program brings older people together with homeless Humane Society pets free of charge. And whenever you buy any Purina pet food, you're helping support your local Pets for People program.
Now there's 2 instead of 1. Now a golden friendship has begun.
So help bring pets and people together.
Let's go, boy.
Look for Purina brand pet foods.
Okay, thanks for waiting through the break. Now we have a chance to get to your phone call for your question. Go right ahead.
Hi. You hear the difficulty from other inmates, especially with the rape conviction. I'm wondering if Steve had any problems, or did the other inmates believe that he actually could be innocent?
So there's like a lot of them. You know, he says, yeah, I'm innocent. I said, well, sure. You know,
everybody's innocent in prison, aren't they? I mean, they all say they're innocent.
Yeah. As far as problem, no, not really is, you know. Never really had no problem or nothing, but you know, every inmate, a lot of them say, you know, they did it and everything else, you know. There's a lot of them saying that they are innocent. Talk about their case, but it's hard to say.
Okay, my question is for Steve. I just wanted to know how you felt during the trial. I mean, did you feel that you were innocent until proven guilty, or did you feel that you had to prove your innocence?
That's how to prove your innocence. You know, that's just system. I thought you're supposed to be innocent until proven guilty, but it is the opposite, it seemed like right there.
And how did you control yourself? I mean, how could you just sit there watching what was going on, knowing you were innocent?
It's like the DA said, he said, well, you just sat there, no emotions. Well, you're not going to get up in the courtroom and start hollering and screaming, I guess. It just wanted to, but...
Excuse me, Steve. Does this frighten you?
Oh, I think it's really scary. I mean, if you have to prove that you're innocent, I mean, anybody could accuse you of anything then, and you have to prove that you're innocent. And that's not the way it's supposed to work.
It's not the way it's supposed to work.
That's the way.
Well, we have our legal expert here. Why is that? Why was he put in that situation? Is there anything he could have done when he was arrested that would have prevented this happening? Is there anything Steve could have done? Or something we ourselves can know that if someone arrests us and we know it's mistaken identity that, hey, we need to do this or we could be in trouble?
Well, I think you have to get a lawyer that knows what he or she is doing, and you have to do your homework by getting proper expert testimony and doing a thorough investigation. Steve's case was not investigated properly. Unfortunately, it happens. I just want to convince people it is not the rule. This is an exception to the rule, but if it happens to one person, it's happened to one too many.
Well, what I was wondering was if someone identified a picture that looked like you in this book, did they ever look up that person?
Well, that was Steve's picture they identified.
Why is his picture in a book?
His picture got in the book because of an artist composite from the first incident, and the boyfriend had seen the artist composite, saw Steve in a supermarket, said, that looks like the guy in the composite, took Steve's license number down, called the police, they arrested Steve. But I think before they arrested him, they actually got his driver's license photo from the state of Texas and showed that photo to the woman first. So she was conditioned to see the image of Steve when she went down to that lineup. And even then, she wasn't positive. She said, I can't be positive unless he has an appendectomy scar. Unfortunately, he had an appendectomy scar, as do millions and millions of people.
Go right ahead. You're on Twin Cities Live.
Yes, my question is, first of all, I'd like to comment to Ron Meshbesher. And I'd like to say that he's probably one of the most excellent, if not the best, lawyer in the state. And I think Steve is real fortunate that he was willing to take on his case.
Thanks, Mom.
Second of all, I'd like... Hello?
Go ahead.
Okay. Second of all, I'd like to say that I would like to question Ron regarding Steve's case. Where would he be? Where would his case be today if Ron wouldn't have had come in and taken on his case? Where would he still be in prison? Where would his case be, and what would be the chances of him getting out if Ron hadn't come in?
I really want to take more credit for the case than I deserve, because I don't deserve much. The credit should go to the reporters that uncovered the evidence, and I'm sure they would have been able to find some lawyer along the way who would have volunteered just as I did. I just happened to be there at that particular time, and I really deserve very little credit for that. I think Steve would have been exonerated. It may have taken a little bit longer time, but eventually it would have come.
I have a question for you, Steve. You know, you hear so many stories about prison life and things that happen in prison. Did you ever feel at any time your life was threatened during that 2 to 3 years in prison?
I've seen, you know, plenty of violence when I was in there, you know, people getting stabbed or, you know, beat up and whatever else. But I don't just try to stay away from that. You know, you go in there and you see, you know, who the people, you know, to stay away from these people here. And, you know, just try to mind your own business and that there and just stay out of trouble, I guess.
So it's like you had to guard your own life while you were in prison.
That's about it.
What about the emotional impact of that? By covering different stories, I just have visited and spoken inside of prisons. It's one thing to walk in there and know you're coming out and hear that door slam, but that first time you walked into prison and you heard the door slam and you knew you weren't walking back out.
That was awful scary at first. You know, just first time in jail or, you know, in prison or something like that there. First couple weeks, you know, it was pretty hard, but every day it's the same old routine. And
Stallone and Gloria must have this had to be just devastating. I can't, you know, for a family to go through this, not only just a trial of this sort, but years. We're not talking about a month or two, we're talking about almost 3 full years.
Well, the first time when we went down to the prison, he was really shaky and kind of scared. You know, it was kind of a new life because he'd just gotten up there again in December. And we got there at the end of January and stuff, and you go through those gates, and it gives you a feeling. There's two. You go through one, and they lock it, and you go through another, and they lock it. And you talk through this screen, and you're not allowed to touch this person, you know. And it's just really something.
We still have the phone call at home. Go right ahead. Thanks for waiting.
Yes, my best friend in Dallas, her husband was convicted for rape, and he's been serving time for 5 years in a Texas prison. There's a bunch of us who'd seen him during and after the time that the rape took place in Plano. And he has an appeal coming up. He's been waiting for a year. But because of it, now him and his wife and his 2 kids, they're going through a divorce now. And he can't live outside of the prison now. He said he's scared. He doesn't know how to handle life outside of prison anymore.
Is that going to be a problem for you?
No, it's like a lot of them go in there that they just, you know, spend a couple of years and they don't know any other way of life. I just went in there and says, and this is not my life right here, you know, just get out and try to start life out here. But
when we come back, I want to ask you the question about the day you left prison, your feelings, how you left, and your first reunion with your family right after this.
People just naturally like talking to Oprah Winfrey.
What, is she a slob in the house? She doesn't keep her house clean or what?
Well, she had a party and put dishes in the cabinet, and they sat there for 4 months till they got bugged.
That's a little snobby, I must say. Do you worry about your own sense of sexuality, though? Because, you know, most people think you stop having sex when you're 40.
No, if the right guy comes along, I might try it.
She's more than just a lot of talk. Oprah Winfrey. Oprah Winfrey. Find her weekday mornings this fall.
Oh, don't you hate it when people say, what do you want to do? What do you want to be?
I used to. No one asks me, you know, because I know what I want.
Like what?
A successful career in business.
You are really sold on that business training you took last year, aren't you?
It got me where I am today, and it may get me where I want to be tomorrow.
You think business career training would be a good idea for me?
Find out.
Call Minnesota School of Business, 341-2221 to get your free brochure. Get the training to start going places. Call 341-2221.
In recent years, most innovations in frozen pizza have come in the area of crust. Thicker crusts, thinner crusts, lighter crusts, crustier crusts. Double Top Pizza from Tombstone puts the crust where it belongs, on the bottom of the top. And our crusts are doing double duty because Double Top doubles the toppings. Double the meat, double the cheese, double the taste. Double Top Pizza from Tombstone. You'll think twice before you buy anything else.
Well, you know, the 1979 trend-setting movie Kramer vs. Kramer opened the door for a lot of single, divorced, and abandoned men who wanted to seek legal and full custody of their children. On Friday's Twin Cities Live, you'll meet 4 men who did just that and are now both mom and dad to their children on a full-time basis. Call us right now at 641-1298 and reserve your seat. Free tickets for Friday's Twin Cities Live as we share the joys and frustrations of single fathers. You wanted to ask, what was your question? Right here?
Well, 2 questions. Were you wearing a mustache when you were picked up, and what were you doing in Texas?
Yeah, I had a mustache down there, and I was a roughneck. I was working the water wheels down there, City of Houston and stuff.
Okay, tell me about the day you got out of prison. How did you get out? Did they just come to you and say, okay, you're out today, and open the door and you walk out?
That's about it. No, it was like they woke you up at 4 o'clock in the morning for breakfast, you know, and you had to wait around till, I think it was about 8:30, the bus from Palestine, where I was at, to take us down to Huntsville. It was about 100 miles or something like that. So they woke you up plenty early.
What did you do to cope with the time in prison? What devices did you use? I mean, what did you think about? How did you cope, basically?
Read a lot of books. You know, passed the time with that there, and, you know, they had TVs out there and watched a little bit of TV and did a lot of reading, though.
I have to say that I understand how all of you feel, because I am being accused of something terrible that I did not do. And
Sorry.
And we have no funds for an attorney anymore. And what does a person do when they are given a public defender that you feel that is not doing their job, that don't believe in the person that they are assigned to? What do you do? You know, I'm not confident in the man that was appointed to us. We just have no money anymore to pay a private attorney, which we did in the
What are you accused of?
Child abuse in daycare. First degree and third degree assault. And this has just been horrible. This is my whole family. I have 3 children, my own. And it's been devastating.
Steve, you probably know what this...
I don't know, public defender. Like, I was sitting there going to court and that, you know, waiting for a trial and that there, and they just go in there and they didn't seem to do much. You know, it's hard to pay for lawyers, I know that, you know.
I don't know, do they have the funds to properly investigate, you know, detective-wise, or...
Ron, are we left hanging if we don't have the money? You hear that all the time, and I know it's cliche to say it, but a rich man has the money to get the rich man's attorney and
you
it's
hear
a better
that all
shape.
the time, and I want to allay the public's fears. At least in Hennepin and Ramsey County, we have very competent and experienced public defender's office. They have full-time investigators. They have budgets for complete investigation. And if you're in one of those counties, I would suggest, if you're not happy with the lawyer appointed, because they have a number of different public defenders, that you just ask to be transferred to one that you have some comfort with. After this case and the publicity attendant to it, I received all kinds of mail from people who say pretty much the same thing as you just said. And it's impossible for lawyers who have to pay secretaries and rent to take on all these cases for free. And that's one reason we have the public defender system set up. A lawyer can occasionally volunteer his or her time, but you just can't do it on a regular basis. And I sympathize with your position, but I'd ask that you be appointed a different public defender, and I'm sure you'll find one that you have some confidence in.
She can do that. She can request that.
She can request it, and if there really is a conflict between the two, the chief public defender should assign another one.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Question down here. Go ahead, sir.
My brother-in-law is in prison now. We've got the evidence that proves he's innocent. Is there some shortcut? He's been in prison now for almost a year. Is there a shortcut that we can take to get that information out to the proper people? Does he have to wait for a retrial or an appeal to go through all this when the evidence is all sitting there, and it's just a matter of making a jury understand the serology tests that they took?
Basically, you're going to have to follow the procedures and appeal the conviction to an appellate court in that state. And if you don't get any results there, then you can go into a federal court in that district. But I don't know of any real shortcuts unless you're able to convince the prosecuting attorney that the wrong person was convicted. Sometimes they'll listen. Frequently, they want to rationalize the fact that they've been responsible for a wrongful conviction, and their mind is closed to that kind of evidence. But it depends on the person you're dealing with. I would just suggest you get somebody to keep knocking on the door and keep writing letters to the prosecutor.
Thank you for waiting. Go right ahead. You're on Twin Cities Live.
I would like to know how the 2 reporters became interested in Mr. Fossom's case.
Back when Steve was accused of the one where he was sitting in prison, we got a hold of a newsman from Minneapolis Star and Tribune, and he wrote an article on Steve and that he might get a new trial. And Andy Greenspan from WCCO read the article, and he called and was wondering if he could go down and cover it. And I said, sure, anything will help, just as long as we can get him out of there. And he kind of worked on it from there on in and started, got transcripts and read those and said that there was a lot of loopholes, and then they went after it.
Our guest today, Steve Fossom, who spent almost 2 years in prison on a rape charge that he was given a full pardon of, and his family and his attorney that helped him get out of prison, and will continue with him after this on Twin Cities Live.
Now there's something new at your local weight loss clinic. It's the Fast Finish program. Only $49. It's designed for people with pounds, not time to lose.
Look at her. Doesn't she look great?
So thin.
At the clinic, Pat Shermone lost 71 pounds and went from a size 22 to a 12.
All my friends really noticed the difference, and my husband is so proud of me. Thank you, Weight Loss Clinic. Now that I've lost weight, my favorite things in life are a lot more fun.
At the weight loss clinic, Bonnie Hageman lost 74 pounds and went from a size 22 to a 14.
I feel attractive now, and my husband is very proud of me. Thank you, Weight Loss Clinic.
If you have pounds, not time to lose, get the Fast Finish program for only $49 at any weight loss clinic. It can help you lose up to 5 pounds per week. This special program is available for a limited time only, so call today. Remember, only Weight Loss Clinic can give you the Fast Finish for your weight problem. Call now.
I'd like to show you why Kozlak's Royal Oak Restaurant in suburban Shoreview is one of my favorite restaurants in all America. Great food, lunch and dinner. Fabulous New Orleans Sunday jazz brunch. The gardens, dining with delightful views. Outstanding private party and meeting facilities. A knowledgeable, caring staff. Come enjoy with me the beauty and bounty that is Kozlak's Royal Oak Restaurant.
Steve's sister Gloria spent a lot of time trying to get her brother out of jail. The day that he walked through those bars and was back in your arms again, and you were able to hold him and to have him back in your family unit, you know, what did that, describe that for me?
It was a long ride up to the cities. We live 130 miles, and it didn't seem like we were ever going to get there. And when he come out that door, I guess he comforted me more than I comforted him, because I was just about falling to pieces. It was really a good feeling.
What did you say to one another?
I don't know. I can't remember, I guess. Just, I don't know.
How did you go about rebuilding everything?
Well, I think we're still, you know, he ends up hearing what everybody's been doing for the last 3 years. You know, the kids, they talk a mile a minute, you know, to him, and tell them everything they're doing and showing them what they do. And like our little girl, she has to try out her trumpet for him and show him how she can play that. And it's just to renew everything, you know.
Those are sort of the precious
he's all
things
missed,
that
yeah.
You just can't recapture that no matter what.
And he looks at all these kids that were maybe about 4 foot tall, and now they're 5, 6, or 6 foot tall. You know, he's got nieces that are that tall, and he just shakes his head and says, "Hey, I don't know. These are really growing."
You're never going to get that back, are you, Steve?
Nope.
Go ahead.
Hi, Steve. I was wondering if you could tell us some of your positive goals that are going to get you back on the track for you and your family.
What are you going to do with your life?
I don't know, I've been looking for a job around down by Mabel and down in there, but it's just, there's no work down there. Like this guy I talked to, the city's up here, he had a construction job, but it's getting pretty late in the year for that there, so. Right now I just want to try to get a job to get something going, you know.
Even though you have a piece of paper that says you were pardoned, Ron, isn't it difficult? Aren't there still a lot of people that it'll be tough for them to look past what's gone on in his life?
Well, that's one of the most aggravating things for me as a lawyer. No matter how often someone is found not guilty or innocent or declared innocent, there are the cynics who say, well, some tricky lawyer found a technicality, and they just don't believe it. And even though he's got a governor's pardon, and they're rare, I'm sure there are many, many people who figure, well, he just got out on some kind of trick. It just isn't the case, and I don't know how I can change the minds of those people. But that perhaps is the most aggravating aspect of representing people like Steve.
Steve, you made the decision to go to Texas. Do you still think it was the right decision? Obviously, you wish you'd never gone there.
No, you know, it's like when I was down there. There's a lot of good people down there, you know. I like living down there, you know. I like the job I was doing.
You obviously won't be going back to Texas, I don't imagine, in the near future.
Nope.
Why is it, Ron, that we have such a hard problem? The person that, you know, not in law, the layman, understanding the judicial system and having those emotions. We shouldn't have those emotions that, you know, well, he got a pardon, but he got off on a technicality.
I don't know why it happens. I just think we don't educate people in the schools about the system enough. Most people are completely ignorant as to how the system functions. And I think that it's an educational problem. It's a problem of the media. The media is quick to grab onto a case and convince the public before the case is ever heard in court. That's another problem we have to overcome.
Thanks for joining us today on Twin Cities Live. Go right ahead with your question.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I'd like to know why Mr. Meshbesher could not get some sort of compensation for the years that Steve was in jail, like sue Texas. And if Steve can't, why can't his family?
You are looking into that.
I think I answered that earlier, that we're looking at some various aspects of the case to determine whether there's some place where he can be compensated for that time.
The young woman that talked to us about her problems in the audience, and Steve, your problems, when a person is accused of a crime, especially when it's rape or child abuse or whatever, why is it that people are so eager to jump and say, well, he's guilty because he was accused?
That's just human nature. I don't know the answer to that. And even though we have a principle that says someone is presumed innocent until proven guilty, everyone who studied the problem realized that most people on jury duty think just the opposite. And it's up to the defendant to convince the jury of his or her innocence.
Steve, was there any problem of you being discriminated against because you were from the North and you weren't a Texan?
That's, Yankees and all that other stuff down there. I don't know if you'd say that'd be a problem in the court. I don't know. DA, he says, like all your Minnesota friends, sure, they get up in front of court and lie for you. He said that there in court and stuff like that, so.
When I was calling down there, they call me Yankee Woman when I call and talk to the Yankee Woman's on the phone,
Malone, you have your family back together now. How are things in the town of Mabel now?
Well, I think they're doing pretty good. They seem to treat us nice and did all the time, really.
They had a dance there last Friday night, about 300 people there, and we're a town of 880 people. It was full. It's a lot of people.
So you got support from the people that you needed it from, and they were there when you needed them.
Yeah.
And the day we came home, there were around, all the way from 125 to 150 people in our lawn, which is full.
We'll be back in just a moment. Don't go away.
Remember waking up to the smell of Armour bacon as a kid? You'd follow that sizzle, and there'd be Mom in her old chenille robe. She'd hand you a strip of that lean Armour bacon. Then before she could fry an egg, that bacon would be gone. Seemed like you could taste how much Armour cared. Well, Armour still cares, and you can still taste it.
I thought, I've got to go on a diet again. I'll starve, I'll try pills or powders, then I'll do what I always do, gain it all back. Then I thought, no, it's going to be different this time. I'm going to Diet Center. No drugs, no gimmicks. I lost the weight, and they're helping me keep it off. See? It can be different. Diet Center. Come on, you're going to make it this time. See Diet Center for a free consultation.
The best new car buys of the year are at Towsley Ford's week-long sell-a-thon. Closeout prices on every 86 Ford car and truck. Over 1,200 to choose from. Motor Trend's Car of the Year Taurus just $99.95. 6.9 APR financing or $600 rebates on many models. $1,000 rebates on Aerostar vans. $500 on Escorts. And with our quick financing, you can drive your new Ford away in hours. No matter where you live, get a closeout sell-a-thon price through this Saturday at Towsley Ford, White Bear Lake.
Welcome back. Go right ahead.
Okay, Steve, I have a question for you. I just want to know if there's a girlfriend in your life or if you're afraid of girls now.
No, I'm not afraid. I ain't got no girlfriend or nothing yet.
How is this going to affect your relationship with women? If you go out on a date and you get involved, I mean, you have to think.
Yeah, that's it. I don't know. I guess not too worried about that.
Okay, you're still on parole for an assault charge?
Probation.
On probation, okay. Once that's cleared up, is your record completely clear? Like when they look up your name isn't even there?
It'll always be on there, I guess.
It's always going to be even...
pardon on that one, and I don't know what'll be happening on this one here, but I imagine it'll always be there.
So there's no way his name will ever be cleared totally from the books?
Well, it depends upon what we uncover in connection with that first case. There is that possibility.
Steve, what's the difference between Steve Fossom now and Steve Fossom before all this happened?
I don't know if you say you learned anything in there. It was just, you learned some rough things in there. That's about it, you know, and try to stay out of trouble. That's it.
Have you noticed any changes, DeLone, Gloria, since he's back?
Not really. He's kind of quiet sometimes, and you wonder if he's thinking about what he's been through. And but he's getting back pretty normal, you know, talking and stuff. But when he first come home, he's pretty quiet. He'd sit for quite a while sometimes and not say much.
How have you and DeLone changed through all this?
Well, I got a different look at things that I always thought people were, if they get accused, they're guilty, and now I know that there's possibility that they're innocent.
DeLone?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think I guess I just feel sorry for people that if they say they're guilty and they're not. And what we're going through with that one lady, that was unbelievable.
Well, Steve, where do you go from here?
Melinda,
I mean, you say you're looking for a job. Do you feel like this is going to have an effect on your life, the rest of your life?
Yeah, it's like that guy in Rochester, you know, applied for a job, and he wanted to talk about the case. I'm going to apply for a job, and he said he's seen it on TV and stuff like this here. But I don't know. It's got too many jobs down around there anyway. So.
Well, I want to thank you all for being with us. Steve, your sister Gloria, your mom, DeLone, and of course Ron Meshbesher, the attorney who played a crucial role in all this and getting you freed from prison. And I know all of us wish you nothing but the best in the future and hope that now, after losing a couple of years of your life, that you can get on with it and be successful. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks.
Hotel accommodations and dining provided by the Radisson University Hotel, 615 Washington Avenue Southeast on the University of Minnesota East Bank campus. Limousine service for the guests of Twin Cities Live, provided by Henderson Chauffeured Cadillacs. Hair and makeup, courtesy of the Hair Forum, Westbrook Mall, Brooklyn Center.
Meeting stuff like this here, you know, kind of, they got somebody in the front.
A lady called me after we had a fundraiser down here later for Steve, and she was with her brother, and he got accused of it, but he's out now. But she called and was wondering, you know, what could be done about what's happening to these guys, because maybe the semen and the treater and non-treater will help some of, you know, recover what we say.
One thing that, you know, in the news business, we see it all the time, people get accused of a crime,
Now there's something new at your local weight loss clinic. It's the fast